Welcome back, my friends. For this particular project, we're going to be using some nifty tricks for photo editing in Photoshop. If you've ever seen a photography picture, wow, that was redundant, a photographed picture that looks really nice and the colors just pop super hard, you're like, how did they catch that? How did they get it to look that good? I can't get it to look that good on my phone. Well, there's a reason why. Most of the photography pictures that have seen in the art world or in magazines have been heavily edited. And what I'm going to show you today is how to do some of that editing. So to start off, this time, you're not going to have to take your own pictures this time. We're going to be sourcing our pictures from a royalty-free site called Pexels.com. All of the images on here are fair use, which means they can be used for anything, as long as you're not making money off them, which we're not. So I'm going to type in the search bar, I think, let's do owl eyes. And come on down till I find a picture I like that I'm going to edit. I think we'll go with this one. I hit download. It downloads into my downloads folder. If it's easier for you, if your downloads folder doesn't show up in your dock, you go to Finder. Hang on, my Finder's on the other monitor. Hit downloads, and it should be there. I like to drag them out to my desktop so I can find them. You can either hit Control-click, open with Photoshop, or you can open Photoshop first and then go find it. This is easier in my opinion. So I've got my lovely owl. That eyeball seems awfully red though, and I think I'd like to change that. So first I'm going to unlock my background so I can edit it if I need to. And the first thing you need to know about photo editing is there's two ways to do it. There's the destructive way and there's the non-destructive way. Destructive editing you can't come back from. You can only change it by Command Z or undoing it. Once you do it, you're stuck with it. You can't turn it on and off. So if I wanted to destructively edit this image, I would go to Image, Adjustments, and play with each of the adjustments. Brightness and contrast pumps up how light or dark something is. I can make it really bright. Contrast just pumps up the darks in relation to the lights. I could go in and change the hue and saturation. Hue is what color it is. Saturation is how intense the color is, soaked with color. Lightness is, of course, how dark or light the picture is. But once I do those things, I'm stuck with them, so I'm not going to apply any of those things. And what I'm going to teach you today is how to use the adjustments palette. Yours may not be sitting in here in Photoshop already, so you have to go to the window and go all the way down to adjustment palette. I just unchecked mine, so it disappeared. If you click it, it should pop up. Sometimes it'll pop up as its own little window. And it has all these different symbols for the different things you can do. Non-destructive editing is done through the adjustments palette. What this does is, on your layers, it'll create a mask on top of it that allows you to turn it on and off. Say I wanted to do a brightness adjustment. See how that next layer just popped up? That's a mask. Notice how the rectangle is in a different spot than the preview image. And if I want, I can go ahead and play around with some of the settings there. And pump this up a little bit. Maybe pump up the contrast, boom, boom, boom. But notice it didn't really change on my preview. And I can turn it on and off to see the difference by changing the visibility. Now, if I was working and I want to come back to that brightness, I'm doing work, I just have to double click on the icon. That pops back up and I can actually adjust it. Maybe I thought that was too much. Other things I can do, I can change the color balance. If I notice an image is too warm, I can back it off, or too red. There's a lot of yellows in here. Maybe I don't want as much yellow. I could push it towards blue. And it's a very subtle change, but it edits that out. Right now I've been working with the whole image. Maybe there's just one part of the image you want to edit the color of. And in my case, that's the eye. That looks too bright. So I'm actually going to come in with hue and saturation. And it created another mask up here. However, if I just want part of the change to take place, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and find the color I want for my eye. I think I want to move it a little more towards yellow. And if I needed to, I can actually, oh, it's not letting me sample. You can also colorize. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so now I've got what looks like a slightly more normal owl eye. My guess would be was they really pumped up the saturation on that. But I don't like the grainy, like mustard yellow it's made my owl. When a mask is in full effect, when everything is being applied, it's white. When nothing has been changed, it's black. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit Command-I to invert it. Oh, my changes went away. And the way this works is you have to make sure that mask is selected. You're going to come in with white on your paintbrush. Make sure you're using a soft brush. And what you're going to do over top of here, you're going to just start painting in white. However, if you notice, it's not painting in white, it's taking the change and applying it that way. That looks kind of cool. It kind of looks like he's sick, though. You can change the opacity or how see-through your brush is by going up here to get a more gradual effect. So that's not quite as bright. Maybe I still want that red ring around the eye. And all of that has just been applied onto here. I could play around with other masks. Say I want to really pump up the color of the beak into a different color. Let's go with, we did color balance. We'll mess with black and white later. Let's do levels. Levels are, again, just how light or darks. This is kind of your middles, your midtones. This is your shadows. So say I really want to pump up the shadows on that beak. Again, all I have to do to apply it to just one part is I hit Command-I. That takes away the change. I come in with white. And I'm going to paint very carefully over top of that. So that's the first way of making adjustment palettes. I've got more to show you. Something you should be keeping in mind when you work with these images. One, save as you go. You want to be saving as a PSD file to make sure you're preserving all those masks. If you save as a JPEG, that all goes away and gets flattened. So we're going to call this owl eye. Okay. Now if I go to export it, that's when you want it to be a JPEG. And I would just hit export. Cool. However, this is not finished. In order to be able to see the adjustments you've made, I need to see your original image. So what I want you to do is I want you to put them side by side. Doesn't matter right or left, whichever one. I'm actually going to come up to image, canvas size. Before we took away, now we're going to add. And I know this is 42.5 inches long. I'm going to double that because the picture I'm working with hasn't changed in size. So 42 plus 42 is 84. Actually, it's going to be 85 because it's 0.5 inches. Fill color is going to be white, but that's not going to matter here in a second. I'm going to hit OK. Next, I need to place the original file beside it. This is why I saved it as something else, so I'm not trying to work from a file I already have open. So I'm going to go down to Place Embedded. I'm going to look for my original picture, which I think is on my desktop now. There it is. And I'm going to place those side by side. I probably could have done more to change it, but for the purpose of the video, this is pretty good. This is what I would turn in. I'm going to export that. And plonk it on into my folder so my teacher can see the changes I made. Let's go with put the changed one on the left. That way we can keep it consistent. Cool.